On today's episode of the Jon Campea Show, the first reviews and reactions are now out for both Shazam 2 and Scream 6. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Grant Gustin puts up kind of a heartstring-pulling kind of final video of him taking off the Flash costume for the final time. Is Avengers Secret Wars destined to be a big hit? Or is it kind of set itself up to be a failure? Taran Edgerton is saying that the new James Bond has already been cast. We got Jon Bernthal coming back as Punisher, but not all of the main cast from Daredevil are coming back. We found that out too. And it looks like Star Wars is cleaning house because that Kevin Feige Star Wars movie and the Patty Jenkins one, those ain't happening. That and a whole bunch more. The Jon Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the Jon Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, Jon Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Sitting back there, we got Ray Orris joining us. Taylor Gonzalez is back there. Jonathan Voico's running the show today. We got the delightful Chris Carr, and most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making the show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off the show by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics, and that's it. We actually have to cut the show a little bit short today so that we're not going to have live questions near the end of it. I'll explain to you guys later why we need to cut the show a little bit short today. Hey, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to remind you guys, if you guys need your daily fix of the Jon Campea Show, but you can't always be in front of a YouTube video, here's some good news for you. There's an audio-only version of our show creatively called the Jon Campea Show Podcast. Just go onto your favorite podcasting app of choice, subscribe to it to be there today, so it'll be there when you need it. All right. Also want to let you guys know Mandalorian, our after show, is not going to be done today. It's going to be done tomorrow. Again, I'll explain later why I can't do that today. So the Mandalorian after show will be done tomorrow, but we are going to talk about the Mandalorian a little bit here today, and that's a great segue into our first topic, and that is Mandalorian. Mandalorian has, of course, returned. Now, the first episode dropped of the new season, and I thought it was pretty good. I heard some grumbling about it from some people, and I certainly don't think it was a perfect episode. It had some things that I would have personally probably done a little bit differently, but I liked it. I thought it was a solid start. It did, however, make me think about Andor may have ruined Star Wars TV for me, because Andor is just such a different level. Like, after watching last week's episode of Mandalorian, I thought, you know what? Mandalorian shows you how fun Star Wars can be. But Andor kind of shows us how great Star Wars can be. And I kind of brought that mindset with me into season 3, episode 2 last night. And I'll tell you what, while we were not going to big spoilery detail, I was not thrilled the first 5 minutes. Like, the first 5 minutes or so, I'm like, oh, here we go again. It's like, look, everybody, remember this place? Look, for no narrative purpose whatsoever. And that was the start of it. But you know what? It's okay to start a little slow if you finish strong. And I will tell you what, this episode finished strong. Like, and it wasn't just at the last minute. Like, after the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of the episode really picked up and it found its footing, and it became, I'm going to say this, I think maybe a top 5 favorite episode of Mandalorian of mine. I really loved it. And if you have not seen the episode yet, hang on to the final minute, because I didn't think a show like Mandalorian could surprise me, but it does a little something that surprised me, and in a way you probably won't be thinking about or expecting. I really enjoyed the episode. I thought, again, started weak. The one thing about The Mandalorian is it really does fall into this trope of member berries way, way, way too much. Look, everybody, we're back on Tatooine again. Why? And when they explain why, it's like, really? He couldn't have made a phone call? But whatever. But then it starts to pick up. And what's the name of the episode again?
I just was watching
The Waters
it.
of Mandalore, or the Mines of Moria, or whatever it was called.
The Mines of Mandalore?
The Mines of Mandalore? Maybe that was it. So clearly the title of the episode gives away that
It didn't really stick with us.
yeah, they really go back to Mandalore. So the title of the episode gives that part away. But it's a fun episode. I had a good time. And we're starting to see, this is the first time we're starting to see some development in Grogu. Grogu has been the same little, and there's nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with it at all. Grogu has been the same little cash-generating machine that he has been since episode 1 of season 1.
He's just a baby.
And they haven't really changed him. We found out things about Grogu along the way, but this was the episode that we start seeing Grogu change a little bit. I won't say how or why, and it's slight and it's subtle, but it was adorable. I don't think they're ever going to have Grogu speaking in full sentences because that takes away from the part of it. But I mean, God, this little thing keeps getting cuter. So yeah, I thought it was great. Anyway, Chris, you literally just finished watching this episode a few minutes ago.
I can't stay up till midnight. I'm an old woman.
What did you think about it?
It's great. You know, one of the things I really love about Mandalorian in particular is just there's so little dialogue on these episodes. And when there is, gosh, does it pack a punch and really have a reason for being stated. The visuals in this episode are fantastic. Grogu does so much. I love this. And of course, we see the return of Amy Sedaris. That's not spoilery. She's in there. You've seen her in promos and stuff. But gosh, I love her character so much. And I just love how much she loves that little green guy, just like all of us do. This is a really, really great episode. And it's setting up for some really cool things, I think, too.
I agree. I really agree. And, you know, the trailers for this season of Mandalorian promised a lot of Mandalorian action. Like, not just Din, I mean, a lot of Mandalorians. And this was the kind of tee up for that. So you could feel that this is getting teed up at this point. And my goodness, a fun time. Watch it. Much better than episode 1 of season 3. I thought this was definitely a step up. And if this episode is what's showing us what's in store for us for the rest of the season, there's good stuff laying ahead. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to see the episode of The Mandalorian last night? If so, what did you think about it? Again, don't forget, tomorrow afternoon, we'll be doing our open spoiler discussion. So join us there for the full open spoilery goodness talk. But for now, did you like it? Did you not like it? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to something a little bit bittersweet, shall we? You know, Taylor, you'll have to fact check me here on this, but I think it was 9 years ago that CW launched the second show in the Arrowverse called The Flash. A show that I thought was a bad idea to make. I thought this was going to just not work. It'd be too silly on a CW thing. But you know what? I actually became a big fan of that show. I enjoyed Flash very, very much, at least up to a point. It's kind of a show that has more than run its course, and no pun intended. And it's probably already 1 or 2 seasons past the expiration date on its shelf life. But for many years, I really enjoyed the show. And one of the big reasons I've enjoyed it is because I thought Grant Gustin, and I want to word this properly, Grant Gustin was a perfect CW Flash. Grant Gustin was a perfect iteration of Flash for the CW. He had the charm, he had that charisma about him, he had that sweetness kind of about him at the same time. He always came across as this average dude who just had this power thrust upon him. And I was going to say something about my Tinder profile, but I won't. And for that reason, he has been fantastic in the role. Well, he just finished shooting. They are now airing the final season, and he just finished shooting his last scene as Flash. And he put up a post on his social media. If you scroll down a little bit there, Jonathan, you should see it. He put up this post of him hanging up his outfit for the first time. And you could tell it was an emotional moment for him, because he had 2 parts to the costume. The one part he says, this part I don't usually hang this up. I usually take this home and wash it, but no point in washing it now. Then he hung up the main bodysuit, gave it a pat on the chest, and said, what do you say? Like, thanks, buddy, or something like that. Yeah, and you know what? You forget that it has been that long. He's been playing this character at minimum a third of his life.
Imagine being in the post-production offices for the Flash movie. I mean, the pre-production offices.
He was there practically your whole life, all of your children's lives. But no, seriously, Grant Gustin, I mean, he's a little bit older than 27, but Grant Gustin has almost been playing this character almost a third of his life, right? And to hit that moment, and I'm sure at this point he's thinking about looking forward to not being the Flash, looking forward to not having 12-hour shooting days. And I'm sure there's a part of him that's very much looking forward to the break. But when you realize that this is a big, significant chapter of his life, and it's coming to an end, and then I thought about, man, we've been living with this Flash for like 8-9 years. And not all of it great, but a lot of it was. And as the whole Arrowverse project, the whole Arrowverse era is now wrapping up and coming to a conclusion, this is one of the more bittersweet ones. I thought he did a terrific job, and I hope that, you know, the accolades he gets moving forward, and I hope we get to see his career move forward, because I hope this isn't one of those situations where, oh yeah, he was the Flash, and then we never see him in anything again. He's got chops, he's got talent. I want to see more of him. You had a chance to see this video, Chris. I remember watching, I thought, Chris would probably really, really like this video. What did you think of it? I love it.
I've been making myself sad watching all of their things. I've full disclosure, I've been watching these more than I've been watching the most recent season of Flash. I did fall off the bandwagon here, but you know, he's been posting videos. Candace has been posting videos, and it's been really, really heartbreaking and lovely to see how much they cared about this show and what an important part of it was in their lives. And for me, the Flash kind of, you know, it lines up with my trajectory of being an Angelino. I moved here around the time the show was starting.
Oh, wow.
It was one of my first really big auditions. Logan read for Barry Allen. Of course, Aaron Cummings was on that show too. So like a lot of my friends worked in the production studios on this one too. So it's something that kind of is this little weird television tick marker in, you know, my life in LA. So I really loved that first season. I thought it was wonderful. I didn't know that show could be better than Arrow, and then it really found its stride and had some really, really fun, wonderful things and some really great other characters. I'm really excited to see those other folks too kind of jumping off as well. The actor who plays Cisco has a musical show coming up on Amazon that I'm really excited about. So hopefully we'll see Grant Gustin doing more too, because he's fantastic.
I'm going to need you to back up a minute. Mm-hmm. Your husband Logan read for Barry Allen?
Logan read for Barry Allen.
Really?
Yeah. And which, like, when we watched the pilot, Logan was like, oh, yeah, I'm not right for this part at all. I was like, yeah, you're like a Wally or a reverse. He's better than Bad Phillip.
So let me ask you a question. I want your opinion on this. We saw Ezra Miller pop up with Grant Gustin's Barry in the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths. What are the chances at this point now? Do you think that even just for a scene, we see them return the favor and that we see Grant Gustin's Flash pop up in Ezra Miller's Flash movie come up? What do you think the chances of that?
There's no way.
No way?
I think if something like that were to be in the film wouldn't even be released by Zaslav. I don't think he's really? I don't think. Well, you know what? Because it is dealing with the time.
Yeah, like with the multiple possibilities and realities.
Shoot. I'm gonna say no.
All right. You know,
I'm gonna say no.
I think I would lean no too, but not a hard no. Like maybe 40% chance it happens.
Because from the trailer, just the looks of it, if they went to like, a lot of it looks serious. Like a lot of it is really like the tone of it. Like I don't know if they could fit something like that in there. I don't know.
Maybe when he's running through the Speed Force, like as he's running, he sees the other Barry running.
You know,
says, "Hey, how you doing? Good." And then I don't know. They could do something.
Spend all that money on that part right there.
Who knows? All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Did you have a chance to see this video that Grant Gustin did and put up on social media? I thought it was very bittersweet, not just for him as the performer, but for a lot of us who watched this show for years, and it's really the end of an era. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's get on to this. You know, one of the movies that I have really been excited about and looking forward to, like extremely, is the new Shazam movie, Shazam Fury of the Gods. I loved the first one more than most people did. I understand it was not a universally beloved movie, but it wasn't exactly a divisive movie either. Like most people, at least at minimum, found it charming or kind of liked it, right? There's not a lot of people out there, certainly some, but not a lot of people that just hated the film. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite DCEU movies. I just thought it was wonderful, even though it did not do all that great at the box office. So fast forward now. We've been talking a bit about Shazam Fury of the Gods, and the box office projections are not good right now. They are coming in right now. They're forecasting at the moment that the new Shazam movie will actually open to quite a bit less than the first movie opened to. And that's not good because the first movie didn't have a big opening weekend on its own. However, is the movie good? Well, the first reactions for Shazam Fury of the Gods are now out. And for the most part, they're actually quite positive. We go over and start taking a look at some of the things that people were saying. Now, they're not as glowing as, say, the John Wick 4 first reactions were yesterday. Not that good, but they're quite good. The movie podcast said Shazam Fury of the Gods is exhilarating. David F. Sandberg, who I really love as a director, whips up a captivating and truly funny story that can be celebrated with the whole family. Rachel Ziegler, Jack Dylan Grazer, and Jaimon Hansu are standouts for me. Fury of the Gods is super powered fun. Eric Eisenberg over at Cinema Blend said, Shazam Fury of the Gods is a super fun and worthy sequel, not a game-changing comic book movie, but it wins you over with its characters and energy, has some real surprises, and a knowing sensibility that suits it well, plus some creative and exciting monster action. Variety's Courtney Howard writes, Shazam Fury of the Gods, Shazam 2 movie is a super-powered sequel that packs a punch, a super solid, super fun, and super smart blend of hilarity, heart, and heroics, ramps up the action and irreverence to a delightful degree. Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Ziegler are MVPs, and I love the dragon. Daniel Batista writes, Shazam Fury of the Gods is a magical and hilarious family adventure. David Sandberg supercharges everything that made his first film special with heart, and the story always Shazamly? Is that what he wrote? Mm-hmm. Rachel Ziegler and Jack Dylan Grazer steal every scene. Then we get Shazam continues to lean into his silliness and immaturity in the sequel, which tells us, now this is not so great one, or is it? Which tells us, I lost my spot. There it is. Shazam continues to lean into his silliness and immaturity. This sequel, which tells us this franchise will remain to keep the films funny, light and slapstickish. The sequel comes with more action, compelling villains, and a complicated anti-hero. Well, James Gunn, the head of DC, loves it. He thinks it's fantastic, so of course he does. Let's see. Lots of folks know that Shazam is my second favorite superhero, and I'm a huge fan of the first film. I recently got to see Shazam Fury of the Gods, and well, an electrifyingly entertaining adventure. But it's not all positive. Right? A lot of it is very positive. I'm trying to find where the negative one, there is a negative one in here, but I can't find it now. Anyway, it's in there somewhere, but it's not all positive across the board. I did read a smattering of one or two or three kind of negative ones. And again, the reviews, while these are really good, they're not like as glowing as, say, the John Wick 4 reactions were, stuff like that. But still, I read a number of them that think this is a superior film to the first one, which is exciting to me because I absolutely love the first one. So my tickets are bought. My fingers are crossed. My hopes are high. I'm looking forward to Shazam Fury of the Gods. Whether this is the last one or not, who knows? We'll see. Anyway, Chris, we're seeing the reactions coming out now. Are these around where you thought they would be? Does this sound good to you? I don't know. Where are you thinking right now?
I mean, this is where I was hoping they would be because I love that first one. And I know a lot of us, too, myself included, talked about some of those trailers, maybe not getting us as excited, maybe the poster not getting us as excited as, you know, DC really needs us to be. And these reviews make me really, really happy. And of course, Jack Dylan is like stealing these scenes. He was incredible as Freddy. He was so funny in the first
really
one.
Good.
And it's great to hear that Rachel Ziegler fits in really well too. I mean, I love this dynamic. I love the Shazam kids. I think they're so fun, and to have them featured more in this movie is something I'm really excited about. And obviously we're going to be repeat viewers because of Helen Mirren and Logan's obsession with her. So I'm excited for some formidable foes and some family dynamics. I think it's going to be great.
I'm really excited to hear that sounds like, because I think Jaimon Hansu, I've been a huge Jaimon Hansu fan ever since Amistad that he did with Steven Spielberg. And I love that he was in the first one, but it sounds like he has a much bigger role to play in this one, which makes me quite excited because I really like him as an actor. So anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think? Have you been looking forward to Shazam Fury of the Gods? Maybe you have, maybe you've been on the fence. Do these positive reactions sway you at all? Maybe you weren't a fan in the first place. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's talk some James Bond here, shall we? Now, of course, always one of the big discussions in the world of movies and movie fans is who's the next James Bond? I mean, hell, even when Daniel Craig was like 2 films into his stint as James Bond, people were asking, well, who's the next James Bond? Always, who's the next Batman and who's the next James Bond? These are the questions that always seem to get brought up, and we have had a litany of fantastic Bonds over the year. Daniel Craig happens to be my favorite. And the reason he's my favorite is because I think Daniel Craig was the perfect amalgamation of the suaveness of the Roger Moore Bond with the badassness of the Sean Connery Bond. And I always kind of found Daniel Craig to be a really nice mix of those two. But I've loved all the Bonds that we've had.
I feel like it was like a Sean Connery and oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? Far left, License to Kill.
Dylan or Dalton?
Dalton. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because he had that intensity of Dalton.
Dalton was great too. By the way, Dalton, you could see him in the final season, of course, of Doom Patrol. Loved him in Doom Patrol. Anyway, so who's going to be the next one? We've heard a lot of names thrown around, right? And then, you know, the Broccoli's been saying, oh, we haven't even started casting that yet. And I said, I don't know that I buy that. I don't know if I completely buy that. Well, one of the names that has been high on the list of a lot of fans, that a lot of fans think were a real possibility to be the next James Bond, is that of Taran Edgerton, who is great. He's fantastic. And I don't know if I ever personally saw him as Bond, maybe a little bit. I mean, I would have been okay if they cast him, but he's been high on the list. Well, apparently, according to him, it ain't going to be him. But more than that, it sounds like he believes that the new Bond's already been cast, because he said the following. You can go to my screen on this. He said, yeah, this is Taran Edgerton speaking. I mean, I think they've already got someone, and it's not me, said Egerton. Yeah, I mean, I've never been a part of the conversations. I've never met the Broccoli's personally. They've never inquired about me. I've just never been one of the guys that they're looking at. I just don't think I'm the right person for that. I think there's much better candidates for that role than me. But, you know, I'd be a very willing audience member. They're brilliant films. So going back to the top where he said, yeah, I mean, I think they've already got somebody. Now, it should be pointed out that that is not a 100% confirmation that they actually do. But Taran is not some random fan. He has agents and managers and agencies that he works with, and he knows things and he hears things. And so when Taran says, I think they've got somebody already, I don't think that's just him as a random fan speculating. I think he's heard something. Now, whether or not it is 100% true that they've got their next James Bond locked up, we won't know that for a while. But it sounds like maybe they do, and it's not going to be Taran. And look, I never really thought Taran was one of the front runners to be the next James Bond. Right now, it's kind of looking like either Henry Cavill or Aaron Taylor Johnson. I would put probably my money on one of those two, probably being it next. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, you hear about this, Chris. How do you interpret Taran's words here? And did you think that he might have been an actual serious contender to be Bond?
I do feel like he could have been a name that was brought up. I mean, the Kingsman, his role as Eggsy is very Bond adjacent. So I can understand that. Same thing with Richard Madden, who's another name who's come up, right? His bodyguard role.
He would be great.
Very much feels Bond-like. But, you know, I think that this is, when we talk about casting speculation too, it is hard to kind of believe anyone at this point, especially in a post-comic book world where everyone's kind of very tongue-in-cheek about what role they're getting. But I feel like he'd be pretty honest about this. And he also is somebody who I think is chasing prestige roles as well as these kind of action popcorny things too, especially after Rocket Man. I think he's really trying to explore all of that. Blackbird, even on Apple TV, was fantastic.
Well, Tetris looks really good.
Mm-hmm. He's doing a lot of really interesting stuff. And being in another franchise, I know Kingsman, he was only in 2 of them, but still, committing to a franchise might not be on his radar right now. So it makes sense for him to pivot. I still think that maybe Henry Goulding could be in the talks for this. I think that'd be a really interesting choice. Or maybe they get a complete unknown. I think that'd be kind of fun. Bond is a really powerful name. Do you even need a name actor with the franchise?
Probably
Justin
not.
Long.
I mean, for the initial, see, here's the thing about that.
Everything.
For the initial buzz, yeah, you want a name.
Okay.
But the reality is, once you've got your new Bond, because let's be honest, how many people knew the name Daniel Craig? Wait, wasn't he like a 4th line character in that one Tomb Raider movie? I mean, really, like Daniel Craig was not a household name. But once whoever they cast, let's say it's a no-name person, once they do the first Bond film, that's it. They're Bond. And their name does become a household name, right? Look at what happened to Daniel Craig. Like, as soon as he became James Bond, Daniel Craig, household name. So, yeah, you're right. It doesn't necessarily have to be a known name. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Taran is saying that he's not Bond, but he's pretty sure they've already got their Bond. Do you have any kind of thoughts as to who that Bond might be? Do you have a pick of who you would like it to be? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's now take a question from you by going to our Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. If you guys have a question for the show and you want to hear your voice on the show here, go ahead and call our hotline anytime, 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And we got a question here right now about what is the destiny of Avengers Secret Wars? Check it out.
Hey, John and crew. This is Zach from Connecticut. So I had a question about Secret Wars. This could possibly be the biggest MCU movie of all time, bringing in old and new characters. But how does the MCU get bigger after that? How are they going to continue the hype train? Bring in an even bigger bad like Galactus? Let me know what you guys think and bring on the filthy.
All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Zach. And, you know, it's interesting to talk about a movie that is, 3 years away? That is a significant amount of time away, like Avengers Secret Wars. Especially, not only do we have a ton of other Marvel movies coming up before that, we have another Avengers movie coming up before that in Kang Dynasty. A couple of interesting things about this whole question. Let's talk about how do they keep getting bigger. That is one of the problems that the MCU is facing, right? How do you get much bigger than a grimace-chinned alien with the stones of creation themselves that can just snap his fingers and wipe away all half of existence? Well, that's tough to top. And so far, they haven't convinced me that they have topped it with Kang. But at some point, like, the pursuit of the something that's bigger becomes a self-defeating endeavor. And that's why I loved what the MCU did in the earlier phases, that the movies always change gears, right? We talk about this a lot. The MCU movies, up until the end of phase 3, have never always been about gotta save the world, gotta save the world, gotta save the galaxy, gotta save the world, gotta save the universe, right? Sometimes it was saving this thing, or in Ant-Man, it was saving his family or whatever. Because when you keep changing gears, it always feels fresh. And at some point, you run out of the bigger bag. I know this is an unpopular opinion. I don't believe a Galactus can work in a live-action movie. How is Galactus a character you can use in a movie?
Just like a little Pac-Man going and getting a planet.
What's going to go on? Is Shang-Chi going to go up and stand on the tip of Galactus's nose and punch him? I don't know how that becomes a character or an interesting thing. And really, we already have the Celestials. And I think the way the MCU is going to work it out is that, there is some roots to this in the comics too, that there's a connection between Galactus and Celestials and all this kind of wonderful stuff. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of navigate. How do you go bigger? How do you go bigger? How do you go bigger? Because just chasing the bigger can kind of maybe have you running off a cliff. So you got to be careful about that. Excellence in storytelling is not necessarily about fighting a bigger, yet an even bigger bad guy. Just a compelling bad guy. A really good bad guy. Like, that's what you need. Because listen, Wenwu was not a bigger threat than Thanos. But Wenwu was a hell of an antagonist for that movie, man. He was great. So it's not necessarily about making it bigger. Okay, but I want to go back to the first part of your question there. When you say that Avengers Secret Wars is probably going to be the biggest Marvel film of all time, which of course would probably make it the biggest film of all time. Because Avatar is not that far ahead of Avengers Endgame. So if you put out a movie that is the biggest Marvel movie ever, it's probably meaning it's going to be the biggest movie of all time. And when you say, Secret Wars is probably going to be that movie, I have to ask, is it? Is it? Because I'll tell you what, I ain't so sure that's the case. Because right now, the momentum the MCU has is not very momentous. Because when you're talking about the MCU and the momentum it had going into things like Infinity War and Endgame and stuff like that, it was an unstoppable machine of banger after banger after banger, and everybody was loving everything that was coming out, and it was building out to this incredible crescendo that we had in Infinity War and Endgame. And while we still do have a couple of years before we get to the new Avengers movies, I would say, as a fan of Marvel, as a fan of the MCU, the momentum is pretty much stalled. I mean, we still get some great stuff coming out of Marvel right now, absolutely. And I don't want to turn this into a big complaint fest about the current state of Marvel, because there's some great stuff in Marvel even right now. I can't wait for Guardians 3. I can't wait for the Marvels. I can't wait to see Ms. Marvel on the screen again. I can't wait for the return of Shang-Chi. And I'm very, very curious about the New World Order with Captain America. And a lot of stuff I'm looking forward to. They got Fantastic Four coming. Some exciting, exciting stuff. I am very pro MCU. But just as a Maple Leafs fan, who has been a Maple Leafs fan my entire stupid life, and they have done nothing but kick me in the balls of hope over and over and over again. And my monitor fell down, Jonathan. Over and over and over again with great disappointment. And I love them with all my passion. And yet, as a fan and someone who loves the Maple Leafs, I can point out, there you go. I can point out when and why they suck. They're pretty good this year. But I'm more than comfortable. If you're a real fan, you can point out the things that are not working. So, with the MCU, I mean, we've had a lot of hit and miss. And Ant-Man, I think there was just a thing where Ant-Man became the quickest MCU movie to drop below $1 million of box office a day. Like, it was, no other MCU film has ever gotten below $1 million a day at the box office faster than Ant-Man did. Not a great introduction to Kang. So I would say this. I don't know. Again, we've got a couple more years. I am not convinced that Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars are destined to be the biggest things Marvel's ever done. They're going to be huge. I mean, they're Avengers films. Of course they're going to be huge. But unless Marvel starts to get that momentum going again, and Guardians 3 can very well be that movie. I got all the faith in the world in James Gunn. So Guardians 3 can be that movie. Then they can follow it up with the Marvels. Let's see what happens with this Blade film. Fantastic Four is coming. How are they going to bring in more X-Men? There's a lot of things ahead of us that could still give us that momentum to roll into the new Avengers films, much like they did when they rolled into Infinity War and Endgame. I'm just saying right now, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion like it was with Infinity War and Endgame. I mean, everybody just knew these are going to be some of the biggest films ever. I don't feel that way right now. And it can get us there, but I just don't feel that way right now. On the flip side of that, the potential is there. Because like you said in the message, you're talking about new characters. You are probably going to be bringing back a lot of the old characters. And it gives you this platform where it could be even bigger than Endgame. But I'm going to say this. The fate of how big Avengers Secret Wars will be won't be about the movie itself. It'll be about the state of the MCU going into it. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to determine how big that movie's going to be. And right now, the state of the MCU, I would argue, as a fan, is the weakest it's ever been. Which is still stronger than most, but it's weaker than it's been. It needs to pick it up. Anyway, Chris, it's a really interesting question. We're talking about a film that's like kind of years down the road for us right now. But as you're looking at it, if you had to look into your crystal ball and say, Secret Wars is coming out, is it going to be the biggest Marvel film of all time? Or does it not look like it could be that? Like, what do you think right now?
Well, I mean, I do think it is going to be a lot of returning characters, and I think that'll add to the state of spectacle that comes with it. Yeah. But it's all about execution and good storytelling, right? Like you were saying, it really comes down to characters. And what you had in Shang-Chi was a very justified villain. He had a reason for why he was doing things. He had a method to his madness, right? Villains do not see themselves as the villain. That's why they're so compelling. They are justified individuals.
That's why Thanos was so good.
Exactly. That you understand his methodology. You just might not agree with it because it's heinous genocide. But, you get how he came to that conclusion, right? And so I think that's what you have to do looking forward. There are obviously tons of big bads to look to in Marvel who do have a lot of spectacle. Obvious Galactus, Magnus, Molecule Man, stupid name, but wow, so powerful.
Yeah, who has a role to play in that story.
And we have so many great characters, specifically within the X-Men franchise, too. I mean, Mr. Sinister. And I think one of the things I would like them to get back to is those very humanistic stories told through this fantastical lens of individual struggle. I think is missing sometimes in these big spectacle things where it's the entire world is in danger now and we all have to step up to the plate. And obviously you want your superheroes to do that, but I think we are missing a lot of these very human elements. And I'm excited to see the X-Men coming in so that we do have, and it's going to be interesting to see how they dealt with it since we do have that whole lunchbox society versus the outskirts of humanity, the mutants. How it is when you are the other, how it is when you have fantastic powers and are very, very capable, when humanity despises you. How do you thrive in a world that dislikes you and has turned its back on you, but still want the best for them for the greater good? Those are the interesting stories. So for me, it doesn't come down to what's going to be bigger. It is what's better. And that's good storytelling.
I'm so glad you brought up a name that I haven't even thought about. But if you want to talk about somebody who has truly the potential to be a great MCU villain, it is Nathan Essex, Mr. Sinister. I mean, you can't use his name, Mr. Sinister, because that comes across as just way too cheesy. But Nathan Essex is one of the characters I have always gone, why has nobody used him yet? Well, I mean, New Mutants kind of teased
Exactly.
a little bit, but that movie was terrible.
We don't act like it's around.
No, we don't. We just
We're like,
that
that's
movie
not
didn't
canon.
exist. But I'll tell you what, that is a character I would love to see as a prominent villain. I'll tell you what, this is going to be a very unpopular thing to say. Look, I'm very much looking forward to Doctor Doom. I really am.
Absolutely.
I would be more excited about Nathan Essex.
Well, and we've seen Doom before, and I think that's why I'm very excited about
Yeah,
Sinister,
that's
because
true.
we've seen him in the comics, obviously, but in animated series. And Doom, I'm really excited about kind of Rob's idea too, of more of a political magnet, of somebody who's playing with geopolitics and everything, and seeing how that plays into
A little
things.
bit of Baron Zemo in there.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really, really fun look for him, as opposed to, I can't have Sue Storm, nobody can.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right,
and
guys.
Null, I hope we get in there at some point too, but I don't know if we'll be able to do that one.
Question is for you. What do you think about all this? At this point, if you had to look into your crystal ball and look into the future, is Secret Wars on pace and on target right now to become the biggest Marvel film of all time? Or do you think there might be a momentum issue where maybe the MCU is sputtering a little bit right now? But listen, there's a lot of time between now and then to build that momentum back up. How do you guys see it right now? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, and before we continue, we're going to take just a second here to thank one of the sponsors of our show here today, the delicious and wonderful folks over at HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Guys, it's the new year. Do you remember those New Year's goals you promised yourself you'd stick to? HelloFresh is here to help you eat better by delivering fresh ingredients and easy recipes right to your door, taking the hassle out of dinner time. Looking for an easy way to eat well and save money? Cut back on expensive takeout and delivery and get started with HelloFresh. You'll love how fast, easy, and affordable it is to whip up a restaurant-quality meal right in your own kitchen. My wife Ann and I have been constantly impressed by HelloFresh. Not only how absolutely delicious the food is, but how easy it is to prepare and how much fun we have doing it. Go to HelloFresh.com/Campea60 and use the code Campea60 for 60% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Campea60 for 60% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2023, why are you still paying insane amounts of money every month for your phone bill? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know I made the switch over to Mint Mobile a while ago. The process couldn't have been easier, and I can't believe that I am spending less than a third of what I was spending on one of the other major carriers before. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily in minutes with eSIM. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at HelloFresh and, of course, my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile, for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you check out and support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So if you go down to the description of this video, you'll find links and promo codes to our sponsors. And again, thank you to HelloFresh and Mint Mobile. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to our next topic here. And that one is this. You know, one of the films that's been coming out that we've been looking forward to is Scream 6. Now, I am not, everybody knows, all you guys know, I'm not a big Scream franchise fan. But I went to go see Scream 5, and I had a good time. I thought that was a really fun movie. So I have had some interest in Scream 6. I think the trailers have been quite good. Particularly the second one I thought was great once they introduced the whole, what they called it, a shrine, the ghost face shrine. I mean, I thought that looks really interesting. Well, the reviews, not first reactions, but the reviews for this movie, which comes out tomorrow, which, by the way, I was thinking they're not lifting the review embargo on this movie to the day before it comes out. Not a great sign, but the review embargo has now lifted. And as of right now, if I'm not mistaken, Scream 6 is the highest critically rated film of the Scream franchise, tied right now at 80% with the original Scream. Now, they have, 66 reviews that are currently counted. So it's not like it's only 5, but there are still probably 100 more to come. So we'll see that number go up by a percentage or point or so, or down by a percentage point or two. We'll see. But right now it looks really quite good. And even like outlets, major outlets like the Hollywood Reporter are giving it in its headline. You had it up there a second ago, Jonathan. Like their headline right now is looking pretty positive. They seem to like it. Now, of course, the criticisms I'm reading about the film, and I'm seeing it tomorrow night, so keep your guys' eyes open for my out of theater reaction. The criticism I'm hearing about it from the people who aren't so big on it are, it just keeps playing into its own tropes too much. But aside from that, most of the critics in their full reviews here, a lot of the more, jaded, curmudgeon-y kind of older critics are saying this is actually a lot of fun. It's got the big gory kills. The Hollywood Reporter review of it, I love the way they put it. They said, listen, this is a franchise where the people who are running it know what the fans want. And they're not looking to recreate the wheel. They're not looking to do anything innovative. They're just wanting to give the fans what they want. They want to see some quippy one-liners. They want to see some, play on some movie tropes. They want to see some gruesome kills, and they deliver. And the audience is coming out of them having to have a good time. So I'm excited to hear this. Again, this is the first time in my life that I think I'm actually kind of excited about going to see a Scream movie. Because when I went to go see Scream 5, which I enjoyed, I was not excited to see it. I am excited to see Scream 6 now when I hear about all this. Taylor, I have to, at least this has to make you happy. I know you're a big Scream fan.
Oh my God. Permission to cuss, sir.
Permission
Holy
granted.
fucking shit, you guys. These reviews are making me so happy. I went to, over the weekend, the walkthrough exhibit that I mentioned last week of Scream 6 in Santa Monica. It was at the 3rd Street Promenade. That thing was lit. They had a bodega that they show in the trailer where Ghostface grabs the shotgun, and they had just like footage from the film. They had the room that's like the shrine that you mentioned from the trailer, where it just has like all the different costumes, all these different props. I was looking for clues, like Velma but better.
Clues?
Oh, you guys,
Velma,
like Velma but better. I cannot wait. I hopped out of the live chat just because I'm so scared of spoilers, but I'm seeing it tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Cannot wait. I'm going to get that Times Square poster they're handing out at the 5 p.m. fan screenings, the 3D showing. Oh my God. I could not be happier with these reviews.
Look this up for me, because I look up 65 Rotten Tomatoes rating, because here's the other thing. I'm seeing a double feature tomorrow night. I'm going to go see Scream 6. Hey, Ray's coming with us, too.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna make it through a double feature?
No.
Like a wait?
He's
Okay.
I'm so happy.
He's going to try.
2 burritos.
So we're going to go see Scream 6 and we're going to see 65. But unless I'm mistaken, when I checked earlier this morning, the review embargo is still not lifted for 65.
It's still not lifted, but there's a third movie coming out tomorrow, and it's inside the Willem Dafoe movie where he goes to steal the artwork.
Oh,
yeah,
forgot
that's
about
Great
that one.
feature, you guys.
That would make a good.
I'm looking forward to that, but
Taylor.
I mean,
I'm really excited about 65.
I'm excited about 65, but I'm telling you what, it is not a good sign that they have not lifted the review embargo for
But
that.
this is my favorite new genre of cute single guy finding baby orphan who he must protect.
From Dinosaur.
That is kind of a big
Yes.
deal right now.
I love this. It's my favorite. Yes. to
What do
all
you
the
think about the
daddies.
reviews we're seeing for I know you are not a big Scream person.
No, I'm so happy for Taylor.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's his favorite
It's
franchise.
not enough to move the needle for you to go see it.
No, because I saw the first Scream, right? And I understand, too, that it's fantastic satire, does such a great job looking at the genre, and I completely understand the merit and value in it. But, whoa, no thank you, too spooky.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about it? The full reviews are now out, and they're quite positive. Actually, the most positive that this franchise has ever seen. Tying it with the critic rating right now could beat it of the original Scream movie. Are you looking forward to it? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, we go from some good news about some really good ratings on movies coming out to some movies, some news that's going to upset some people. We all know that Disney Plus, one of the big pieces of excitement that got a lot of fans hyped over the past couple of years about Disney Plus and the MCU on Disney Plus, was the announcement that we were getting a Daredevil Born Again series with Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil, and of course Vincent D'Onofrio coming back to play the role he was born to play, of Kingpin. Wilson Fisk, he's so good in that role. And everybody's been very, very excited. But the two biggest cast members of Daredevil, the two biggest characters in Daredevil, other than Daredevil himself and Kingpin, were Foggy and Karen. Karen, who I believe had no less than 4 boyfriends in that series.
Oh, but so did he. He had so many
yeah,
girlfriends.
I know. What I'm saying, she scored. How many people get to say, I got Punisher, I got Daredevil. I mean, yeah, she's the queen. She's just pretty much the queen. So a lot of people have been asking, what about Foggy and what about Karen? Well, in the midst of news coming out, which we'll talk about in just a bit here, of Jon Bernthal returning as Punisher, also came news in the same report that Deborah Ann Woll and Eldon Henson, who play Karen and Foggy in the original Daredevil series, are not going to be in this new show. I'll read it as thus. Per The Hollywood Reporter, Wool and Henson will not be reprising their respective roles from the Netflix Daredevil series as Karen Page and Foggy Nelson in the upcoming Disney Plus series. It is unclear whether their characters will be recast for Born Again or if they will be excluded entirely from the story. The news was part of a larger story about Jon Bernthal coming back to play Frank Castle / the Punisher in Daredevil Born Again, making him the third actor after Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock and Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk Kingpin to reprise their roles for the Netflix Marvel role in the MCU proper. So, we are not getting, I'm not going to say we're not getting Karen and Foggy, we're not getting Deborah and Eldon. Now, this is interesting because on one hand, I'm thinking to myself, how are you going to do a Daredevil like without Foggy?
Yeah.
Or Karen? Like, some of the great hero characters have that person or persons that ground them, right? And that's why I think Foggy and Karen were both utterly fantastic, because in the Netflix series, we often see, Daredevil going too much to an edge, and oftentimes he had to be pulled back from that ledge, right? And often it was either Karen or Foggy that would do it. They grounded that character. And I just don't know how you do Daredevil without those characters. But then on the other hand, what's really interesting, that Hollywood Reporter report is saying, we're not necessarily saying that Foggy ain't going to be there, and we're not necessarily saying Karen ain't going to be there. It just may be completely different actors, which creates a whole new ball of wax and confusion with a lot of people, because right now the big question has been, Is this, in fact, the exact same Daredevil and story from the Netflix series, or is this just a new Daredevil that is exactly like the one from the Netflix
To which
series?
Disney answered, yes, no.
What's that?
To which Disney answered, yes, no.
Yes, which Disney's
very nice
constantly
California.
answering yes,
Yeah,
no.
no, yeah.
Yes.
I
no,
mean,
yes, no,
Charlie
yeah.
Cox. Charlie Cox has been making a lot of statements, trying to like prepare audiences, saying this is not a continuation of that. This is a new interpretation. This is a new thing, which is like, okay, well, that sounds like it's a brand new thing. But then they'll do and say something else that maybe sounds like it is connected to that. And if they recast, I wonder, because listen, the fans of the Netflix Daredevil series love Deborah Ann Wall and Eldon. They love them in those roles. And I wonder how they're going to feel. But then again, at the same time, let's say just follow me here, just for the sake of discussion. Let's say this is indeed a exactly like, but different Daredevil than the one from the Netflix series. Okay, let's just say that it is. Maybe Marvel looks at it as going, well, everybody wants Jon Bernthal back, and everybody wants Vincent D'Onofrio back, and everybody wants Charlie Cox back. Well, we got to make sure we do something that makes it clear that's a little bit different. Let's recast Foggy and Karen. I mean, I don't know that that's the case. I'm playing Daredevil's advocate here.
I see what you did there.
They see. I don't know that, but again, if you're not recasting them, how do you do a Daredevil without Foggy? And without, I mean, I just don't know. It's an interesting scenario to me. I don't know. Chris, you saw this. You see the Hollywood Reporter saying they're not coming back for this series. How do you interpret that?
I don't like it. I mean, because how do you bring 3 of these 5 core characters back with the same actors and then just sub in new folks? Because Eldon in particular, I love. I think he's so good as Foggy. And the dynamic, honestly, between all 3 of them was so wonderful. You believed that he and Charlie Cox had been friends for years, that they had this deep connection. You saw how much everyone cared about Karen. You saw this camaraderie between all of them. And I'm sure there are other actors who are going to have fantastic chemistry. Charlie Cox is amazing. I'm sure it's very easy to connect with him on set and everything because he's a great, well-trained actor. But these 3 were such a dynamic trio. And again, I just think it's odd to bring back John, to bring back Vincent, to bring back Charlie, and not have them in there. I want my avocados at law. So I'm hoping that at this point, we are just maybe going to mention Foggy. We might just say things in passing. And then maybe season 2, we got the gang back together. And maybe this Born Again story is deferring from the comics and we're really looking at, Matt on his own. Matt trying to find himself and figure out things. And maybe it is him trying to explore with a lot of that Catholic guilt and that violence inside of him. And we need to take things to a dark place. I know some people are worried this is going to be lighter fare since it's not going to be as violent, supposedly, as the Netflix show. But as we've seen in other shows, you don't have to show violence. You can heavily imply it, and it can have a really, really great delivery system. So I'm wondering if maybe it's going to be more of a look at him and his relationship with Fisk. And maybe by bringing in, as we're getting to Punisher, we're going to explore that dark side and maybe giving in to that more violent, less heroic side of Daredevil.
Let me throw out a hypothetical. Let's say we find out in 3 weeks they have new cast, that they've recast Karen, they've recast Foggy. Does that put a final period on the debate about whether or not this is the exact same, not exactly like, but the exact same Daredevil from the Netflix series? Like if they recast this role, does that end that discussion, or does that still leave it up in the air?
I think it ends it. And of course, we're in a stage of Marvel, right, where there's variants and multiverses and all kinds of things. So I'm sure everyone's going to talk about how in a different universe and outside of the 616, we have something else going on. But I do think having these 2 actors removed will really, really finalize everything.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Were you a fan of the Netflix Daredevil series? And if so, how do you feel about the fact that Deborah Ann Wall and Eldon Henson, apparently, according to the Hollywood Reporter, are not going to be returning for this Daredevil series? Does it make sense if it's not the exact same Daredevil as the Netflix one? Is it ridiculous regardless? Even if it was different, do you think they should still be using them? Does it send a signal? Does it not? Do you think maybe they'll just tell the story without Foggy and Karen? Whatever you guys think about this and how you feel about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's get into some Star Wars here, shall we? Guys, I don't know if you knew this. This is a great time to be a Star Wars fan. We got Kevin Feige has a Star Wars movie coming. We got a Rogue Squadron movie, it's movie coming from Patty Jenkins. We've got 18 other Star Wars movies and blah, 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 and Taika Waititi's and Ryan Johnson's and blah. Oh my God, all these movies coming. Oh, wait.
Ruh-roh.
This is the Kathleen Kennedy era of Lucasfilm, where we don't get nice things.
Hey, she gave us lots of nice things.
No, she
Don't
did.
be
She
that
did.
guy.
To be fair, I loved Rogue One. Yeah. I loved The Force Awakens. I loved Mandalorian. I loved Andor. She's given us some wins. But when it comes to the movies, we are now going, like, the biggest thing, I've always said my biggest criticism, and remember, I was all for, I'm not backtracking here, I was all for her hiring. I thought on paper she was the perfect hire to run Lucasfilm. As a matter of fact, George Lucas handpicked her. So if you never liked her pick and you think you know better than George Lucas, God bless you. But I thought she was a great pick. But then again, I thought Bob Chapek was a great pick too to run Disney. It's great to think someone's a good pick. It's a different thing than once you see them in the job for a while. And I got really concerned when I started seeing all these projects lined up and then they lose their director. And then another one loses director. And then another one loses the director. And another one loses writers. And it's like, this president of Lucasfilm can't get on the same page with their creators, right? But I'll tell you what, maybe the biggest damning thing, and I still have a world of respect for Kathleen Kennedy. According to Steven Spielberg, the greatest filmmaker of all time, he thinks she's the greatest producer of all time. She's a first ballot Hall of Famer producer in this industry. Almost no producer in Hollywood, maybe you can count them on one hand, have a better resume than Kathleen Kennedy. She's been an incredible producer. But as the president of Lucasfilm, the biggest damning blotch on her resume is we are going to go a minimum of 5 years without a Star Wars movie. Not from without her trying to get Star Wars movies up and running, but it seems like almost everything she tries to get up and running falls apart. And then we never hear anything else about it. And a couple of things we've been holding on to is that now a lot of people change their sentiment of Patty Jenkins after Wonder Woman 2. I don't care. This is still the woman who got her Actors Academy Award wins and who made the first Wonder Woman. She's an incredible filmmaker. And I was excited about that Rogue Squadron. And then I was damn excited about Kevin Feige doing a Star Wars movie. Well, guess what? Those are gone. Those are gone. Did I sound bitter? Anyway, according to Variety, there has been a big shakeup over at Star Wars. The Patty Jenkins film, which I think we were all starting to suspect was gone, despite the fact that they made this big announcement for it at the Disney Investors Day call. They even did a sketch. They got a full-size X-Wing out on a tarmac and put Patty Jenkins in the gear. They made this big song and dance out of it. That's gone. The Kevin Feige thing's gone. And now they're saying the Taika Waititi thing is still on pace, and Taika Waititi may himself direct it. And I'll tell you what, I know a lot of us, little iffy on Thor Love and Thunder. I don't care. Couldn't I look at everything else Taika Waititi? This is the guy who made Jojo Rabbit. This is the guy who made What We Do in the Shadows. This is the guy who did Wildebeest. This is the guy who did Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, and this is the guy who maybe directed the best episodes of Mandalorian. Yeah, Thor Love and Thunder. Okay, you know what? He's like 7-1. I'll take it. I'm looking forward to his Star Wars project. I am. But it seems like that's it. 4 years since our last Star Wars movie, and that's all we got. That's it. And I look at this, and I have a couple of thoughts. My one thought, which I've already kind of explained, is like, this is just yet another kind of damning example of the leadership or lack thereof that Kathleen Kennedy, who I have a world of respect for, and I adore, and I would chew off a baby finger to have a lunch with her and hear her stories about Hollywood and her philosophy of making movies as a producer. I really would. But we call it as we see it. Her tenure as the president of Lucasfilm, with some big wins, has also had a lot of pitfalls to it as well. And the fact that we're going to be so many years in with no new movie and we got one maybe with Taika Waititi. The other impression I have is this. You guys know I like to bring up sports analogies. So here's a sports analogy for you.
Just confuse me.
Quite often when a new coach is coming into a team, the team will give the walking papers to a lot of the supporting staff, assistant coaches and stuff like that, because they want the new coach to be able to bring in their people. Same is true as a general manager. Sometimes they'll clear the decks so that the general manager can come in and fill and make the team an organization that general manager wants to make. And when I look at this, we've been talking for a while that Kathleen Kennedy will be departing as the president of Lucasfilm sometime shortly. I'd say maximum 8 months after, maybe 1 or 2 months, maximum of about 8 months after Indiana Jones comes out, she's going to be out. And to me, I look at this as kind of a clearing of the decks. I cannot help but wonder, like the Taika Waititi one may already be kind of well into a pre-prep sort of thing, and maybe they like what they've got. But I saw this story, and my first thought was like a sports team. It feels like Bob Iger is clearing the deck and saying and putting out a cleaner slate for whoever it is that Iger is going to bring in to be the next president of Lucasfilm. And I would go so far as to say Bob Iger selecting the next president of Lucasfilm might be the most important decision that he has to make as the CEO of Disney again until he walks again in about 1.5 years, because he only signed up for 2 years so he can transition it to a new CEO. I would say this is going to be his most important decision, because this is far too valuable of a property. So yeah, my first reaction when I saw that those films are pulled was, well, us Star Wars fans don't get to have nice things. Even though that's just us being butthurt, because we do get some nice things. Andor is fantastic. Mandalorian's on right now. But still. And the other thing was, I think they're clearing the decks. Now, whether they're clearing the decks for Jon Favreau, or whether they're clearing the decks, I'll tell you what, after Andor, the guy I want to be president of Lucasfilm is now Rogue. Why am I freezing on his name? Ran the show for Andor.
For Andor? Oh,
I'm freezing on his
Tony
name.
Gilroy?
Now.
there
What's
we
that?
go.
Are you talking about Tony
Yeah.
Gilroy?
Yes, Tony Gilroy. I'm kind of leaning Tony Gilroy now. But whatever, whoever it is, or it's probably going to be somebody whose name none of us know because they're just a great executive, not a filmmaker, and that's fine. That's what I'm looking for. I want a great executive who knows how to support filmmakers and stuff like that. Maybe it'll be Tony Gilroy, maybe it'll be Jon Favreau, whatever. I'd be great with either of them being picked. But it does seem to me like a clearing of the decks. Maybe. I'm just speculating at this point. But anyway, Chris, was there any surprise? Because that's the one thing I didn't feel. I felt a lot of things reading this. Surprise was not one of them.
No.
What do you think about this?
No, because we've talked about this so much too of, for the Lucasfilms aspect of Disney right now, there's not a lot of films. It's a lot of television.
It is called Lucasfilm,
Yeah.
right?
And if you want to tweak that name, okay. But, there's an expectation that comes with it.
You do have dinosaurs in this park, right?
It feels very much like that. And I do just want to address really quickly. I mean, you put this very well. For those in the chat, too, who are talking about how Kathleen Kennedy couldn't produce Spit and all this stuff, she's an 8-time Academy Award nominee.
8-time.
She has been part of so many incredible films. So if you don't like what she's done with Star Wars, that's fine. I completely understand that. But you also don't have to minimize her accomplishments and talk mad shit
They're
about
far
her.
greater than
Oh,
her
like
haters.
here's the thing. Like, seriously, to me,
ridiculous.
the shutdown is this. If Steven Spielberg says, I'm sorry, random fellow fan that I'm talking to, if Steven Spielberg, who is the greatest filmmaker of all time, says Kathleen Kennedy is the greatest producer ever, she may or may not be the greatest producer ever. But if you don't put some respect on that, you're a damn fool.
Exactly.
Now, that's, again, like you said, that doesn't mean you have to like what she did with Star Wars.
No.
I am not a particular fan of what she's done with Star Wars. But if Steven Spielberg, okay, yeah, sure, you know better than Steven Spielberg if she's a good producer or not. Okay, Bob.
It's so easy for us, and I include myself in this, it's so easy for us to talk about all the failings of a film or a franchise or anything from the comfort of our keyboards or behind a desk or something. It's really hard to execute good films. It's really hard to keep great IP alive and well and make all fans happy. So let's just keep that in consideration before we just dogpile on somebody because we don't like them very much.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Were you part of 40 years of history of great, not just filmmaking, but great
Legendary
filmmaking?
filmmaking.
So
Just go back into, like, I've been bringing up these images. Just go back and look up these.
By the
these
way,
images.
we have an editorial video coming out on what does
someone
a producer
wrote it, ain't
do.
that hard. Get the fuck out of here.
It ain't that hard to block either. Get out of here.
I'm sorry. Tell me you're stupid without saying you're stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have an editorial video coming out on what a producer does. And when you watch that and think about what Kathleen again, I am somebody who is, I'm on the Kathleen Kennedy needs to go out of Star Wars. I am on that train. I have not, I was all for her being hired. I do not think she's done a good job. I think she needs to move back into doing things that she's uniquely fantastic at. But to be a Sunday or Monday morning quarterback and go, oh, she was never actually that good. Okay, you're fucking stupid, because that is just simply ignoring 40 years of history.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take away from the fact that you don't like what she's done with Star Wars. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. But to suddenly retroactively go, she was never actually all that much. Okay, sure. And your resume in the film industry is, anyway.
There's certain films I haven't enjoyed, but I don't go, gosh, I hope that director never makes a film ever again. That's just silly. But going back to the point here, sorry to derail you guys. I just wanted to address that. But I do think we are lacking films, obviously, in the Star Wars franchise. And when you were talking about this galaxy that's far, far away, I mean, we all don't have lovely projector movie rooms like you, John. I can't watch this on my one TV and feel as transported as I can in like a Dolby Cinema.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to hear all of those TIE fighters whooshing around with a great sound system. I want to be in a theater with other people and have that collective experience of all of us getting excited and having our hopes up and being really, really concerned about the characters. I want to have that communal experience, which is one of the things I love about Star Wars and why I think the loud fandom a lot of times too is a little easier for me to ignore the more toxic people, because when I'm in that theater with other people, even if I don't love a movie, even I walk out of there not super thrilled, I had a great time in that experience. And I feel like that's a big thing that's missing from Star Wars right now, is that community. And I want to see it back on a big screen. And I really wanted it with these filmmakers. I was really excited about their particular visions because of their other projects that they've done. I thought they were going to add to this ever expanding sandbox in such a unique way. And I really hope they get back on track with their films.
I just need to know, how did this thing with Kevin Feige get screwed up?
Right?
I was so excited because Kevin Feige, listen, he may be a bigger Star Wars fan than he is even a Marvel fan.
I would agree with that.
I've been standing in a circle with him and Star Wars comes up, and man, that guy's eyes light up when you start talking about Star Wars. How did this get screwed up?
Well, I have a couple theories,
I would love to hear them.
and I don't think it's screwed up. You might like it.
Okay.
He might be the next head of Lucasfilm.
Oh shit.
They may be pulling him in a shakeup from Marvel, or they pulled him from this because he needs to refocus on Star Wars.
Yeah, that is the one I would believe
to
more.
right that ship, and then maybe he gets what he wants a few years down the road.
See, I love the idea of him taking over Lucas, because he's run out of challenges at Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, what else are you going to do? You've made the biggest films of all time. You've got movies that have won Academy Awards, that have been nominated for Best Picture. You're the most successful producer of all time. What is there left to do? I just think running Lucasfilm would be a lateral move for him.
Yeah.
I could see him taking over a studio somewhere. But the one thing that you mentioned there, Jonathan, I think is incredibly insightful, is that this could be a part of Marvel going, listen, or Bob Iger saying, listen, the MCU's come off the rails a little bit because we need your full attention here. And so that could very well be it too. And by the way, somebody brought up in the live chat, and I love this, I'll end with this. They said, hey, look, if you want to get an idea about what a producer does, go and watch The Offer. On Paramount, about the making of The Godfather, because The Offer is a great example of how you can have the greatest filmmakers in the world, like a Steven Spielberg. If you don't have an excellent producer behind them, those filmmakers can't get those films made. And go and watch. The Offer is really, it's a very hyper exaggerated thing of it, but it's a great illustration if you want to know exactly how different and important a producer is to things. Anyway, guys, I'm a little pissy today finding out about this. That more like, why can't we get a fucking Star Wars movie? What the hell is going on? Anyway, guys, whatever you guys think about this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's move into our final topic here today, shall we? And that one is this. Yesterday, in the waning minutes of the Jon Campea show, news dropped that Jon Bernthal The Punisher was indeed going to come back, and he's going to be in Daredevil Born Again. Now, what is not clear is, will this be like Daredevil in She-Hulk, where he's going to be in there for an episode, maybe 2 episodes? Is he going to play a significant full role in this? Don't know. And at this point, don't care. Just happy to hear Jon Bernthal will be returning. Because Jon Bernthal, I mean, he has quietly amassed a really impressive resume. When you actually go down, like even films like Wind River and Ford v Ferrari and stuff like that, he's just amassed very quietly a great, prestigious resume.
His part in The Bear.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible. It's such a small role, but it's so important, and he does such great work with it.
He can just suddenly breeze into a movie, making a tremendous impact. I still love him in The Accountant.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Ben Affleck as brothers. He's money. He's absolute money. And so this news came out that he was going to be returning for that. That's exciting in and of itself. Again, a lot we don't know. How big, how small of a role, whatever. I just think it's going to make a lot of people very, very happy. And I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised. Because if you've watched our show, you know, I've had some doubts that Disney would know what to do with Punisher right now. Because unfortunately, in today's political climate, the Punisher character and the symbolism of Punisher has become a little bit problematic. But so I didn't know that they would want to wade into those waters at that point. So I'm surprised, but pleasantly surprised. So that's going to be really neat. Now, this could go south. This could go a little bit south. And there's 2 ways it could go south. The one way it could go south is if his role is significantly small. Because, you know, the fan base, we as fans, we do this, right? We get super, super excited. And the fan base hearing that Jon Bernthal is going to be back as Punisher, it's going to get the blood pumping, it's going to get, you know, the adrenaline going. We're going to be really excited. And if Punisher shows up, you know, if Matt walks into a coffee shop and sees Frank sitting there and they have a 2-minute discussion and that's it, well, that's going to let some people down, I think. But here's the other way that it could go south. This will not be the Punisher you are used to seeing on the Netflix series. This is Disney. And while I do not believe they are going to Disneyfy Frank to the point that he's going to come in a bright salmon sweater and a little fanny pack and dancing along to I'm Walking on Sunshine.
I'd love that.
Playing in his Walkman. While I do not believe they're going to do that, I think if you're expecting to see the same visceral,
come and get it, you little punks. I'm gonna kick your ass.
Murderous, hyper violent Punisher that we've had in the Netflix series, we need to adjust our expectations a little bit. Because this is, how much so we don't know, but this is going to be a toned down version of Punisher. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a PG version of Punisher. I'm sure it'll be a very hard PG-13 version of Punisher, which you can do a lot with PG-13. I mean, there is a lot you can get away with PG-13. And obviously, yes, I know this is television. The MPA is not going to give a rating. I'm talking about the tone of it, okay? There's a lot you can do, but it won't be the same. And I think if the audience can go into it understanding that this is now on Disney Plus, okay? This is now the same network that airs Hannah Montana and The Search for the Perfect Loofah, whatever the name of that stuff is. I have no idea. Whatever. I
think that's a different version.
I know. I had to make up something on the spot.
Oh man!
A loofah like none other.
We're just you get the best of both worlds.
I'm just saying, this is the same network that carries a lot of that content, right? And I think if we as the audience can go into it with adjusted expectations, I think this can still be very pleasantly surprising. And I think we'll be very happy. I think they know we want to see a violent Punisher. I think they know we want to see a dark Punisher. And I think there are ways they can accomplish that and do that while still being on Disney Plus and staying within those boundaries that Kevin Feige and Bob Iger want to keep it within. However, I also think that if fans go into it without adjusted expectations and they expect to see Frank dropping F-bombs left, right, and center and then pulling a guy's intestines out through his anus, that could set some audiences up for disappointment and maybe a little backlash. So I think if we can just adjust our expectations a little bit, I think this will be fine. But it's just not going to be the same Punisher. It will be toned down a bit. Anyway, Chris, you hear about this. First of all, Jon Bernthal, exciting. Love this guy. How hard can they make this Punisher on a Disney Plus show? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I was one person too. I mean, if you go back to the tapes, there's the receipts, y'all, of once Iger came back, I didn't really think we were going to get Punisher in this series because
I'm surprised.
Bob Iger tends to like things to be a bit more family friendly with the House of Mouse. So I'm excited to see this because I do think it means we're going to push some boundaries. You got to remember too that Punisher first appeared in comics in Spider-Man, right? He's always been a very morally complex character who has taken people out, but he hasn't always been the incredibly violent version that we first saw, I think, really with Garth Ennis, and of course what we saw with the Netflix show. So I think you can do this character and not be overtly violent. You really can do a lot with PG-13, like you were saying. You know, one of the
Look
most
at some of the stuff in Moon Knight. Some of the stuff in Moon Knight was disturbing. Remember in Daredevil 2, just that car door scene? Oh, God.
You don't see anything, and it is horrifying. It is so violent. The Last of Us did this recently, too. But there are some kills where you don't see the actual thing that's happening, but you hear it and you see blood coming off, and it's incredibly violent without having to really, really show us the actual meat and potatoes of the situation. So I think you can do a lot here. And I really think what is more interesting too is exploring the moral dynamic between these two men, right? You have the Punisher, who is very driven by a moral code of his own, punishing those who are wicked, you know, doing things that taking out people who others won't, who don't have the balls to do it, is kind of his viewpoint. He has to eradicate this evil in the world. He's lost his family. He's a soldier. He has a method to all of this. Again, you understand his own moral code. And then you have Daredevil, who really grapples with that level of morality, grapples with so much Catholic guilt, wants to do the right thing, tries to get it through the justice system, which constantly has failed, and he feels like he fails. So that's why he dons this whole vigilante persona anyway. So I think that's really exciting to look at here. And if we get those kind of character moments, that'd be great. If we get the heckin' violence too, I'm not going to be mad about it. It's real, real fun. But I think exploring their dynamic and their viewpoints that's going to be a much more interesting story here.
Well, listen, the best stuff with Punisher in the Daredevil series, not in the Punisher series. The best stuff with Jon Bernthal's Punisher in the Daredevil series had nothing to do with any guns, had nothing to do with any of the violent kills, had nothing to do with any of it. His best stuff was him and Matt on that damn roof talking, and the philosophies. That was one of the best things about that entire series was that, and I think it took place like over the course of like an entire episode of just them. He's got Matt chained up, and it's just this philosophical back and forth. And that was prime Punisher. Like, that was great. So if they can really lean into that and take advantage of that, then how many people he shoots in the head,
it really doesn't matter.
Kind of irrelevant.
The chat put it really well. You can do violence without gore.
Yep.
You can do a lot here. And IMDb is doing a smart thing. A lot of shows don't do this. We've got all three of our main fellas here. We've got, Vincent, we've got John, we've got Charlie, all listed for all 18 episodes. So as of right now, they're at least alluding to they should appear in all 18. We don't know if that's actually going to happen.
Yeah, remember, never really trust IMDb prior to something coming out.
But every now and then they did stuff back in the Game of Thrones days, right? Where you'd be like, oh, this character only has a 4-episode stint on here. I shouldn't fall in love with them.
Don't get too attached. All right, guys. Question is for you. What are you feeling about this? Jon Bernthal is going to come back as Punisher for the Daredevil Born Again series on Disney Plus. Are you excited about that? We don't know how big or small of a role it'll be and how dark they'll go. I think this could still be really fantastic, even if they quote unquote Disneyfy it a little bit. I don't know. How are you guys feeling? Do you feel like it's an automatic home run? Do you feel like it's a lost cause? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, that will do it for today's installment of the Jon Campea Show. I mentioned off the top that we have to cut today's show a little bit short. I'll explain later why. And we are so glad you decided to be here and make the show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of you for being here. And particularly big shout out to you guys who are our channel members. Thank you for joining me in our channel members open chat. We're going to have another one later this week, by the way. So if you are one of our channel members, thank you. And keep your guys' eyes open for our next get-together town hall meeting a little bit later this week. So, for everybody in the room, Ray Ora, back there we got Taylor Gonzalez, beside him running the show, Jonathan Voico, and of course the delightful Chris Carr. My name's Jon Campea. Thanks for being here, guys, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.